He teaches in parables to confuse people. He teaches in figures of speech to confuse people. But to the disciples, he speaks plainly in Scripture. And he takes them aside and explains in plain language what the parables mean. But he gives the parables to confuse people. Well, continuing with Jung here, he says the Hindus think for the most part in parables or images. They are not interested in reason. That, of course, is a basic condition of the Orient as a whole. And continuing with Jung, so far as I can see, an Indian, so long as he remains an Indian, doesn't think. Now, Indians are very intelligent. It's not a matter of intelligence. It's a matter here of subjecting thought to logical processes, to analysis. Rather, he perceives a thought, is the way Jung puts it. He perceives a thought. In this way, the Indian approximates primitive ways of thinking. Now, no one's denying that Orientals are human beings. They are. They're made in the image of God. And despite their best efforts, they still think the laws of logic. But if you ask them, they'll deny those laws. And in their denial, they have to use those laws. Well, God, angels, and human individuals think. We've covered a few of those. I haven't said anything about angels. Maybe we'll get to those later. But animals do not think. Plants do not think. Back in the crazy 70s and 60s again, you were told that if you talked to your plants, the plants would grow better. Because the plants can understand what you're saying. Or if you played music for your plants, they love Mozart. Or, I don't know, maybe they loved Metallica. But anyway, you played music for your plants, and the plants would grow better. Rocks. Well, we had pet rocks, didn't we, back in the 70s? I don't know if anybody actually thought they thought, but they certainly thought that plants think. But there's another, at the other end of the spectrum, as it were, groups don't think either. Only persons think, and a group is not a person. Only persons think. The psychologists, the sociologists, some political scientists will talk about the group mind. The group mind. Well, groups don't think. Persons think. Individuals think. And the same for nation or churches. Nations or churches. They don't think. And in my lectures on economics, I said, among other things, is very helpful if you keep this in mind when you're dealing with a bureaucracy. You go to the bureaucracy and say, well, that's the policy. We can't change the policy. Well, somewhere, someone, some person made that policy. So what you have to do if you want any satisfaction from a bureaucracy, which loves to hide behind the group, is find the person who made the policy and get him to change it. Now, that can work with governments. It can work if you have a dispute with the local store. You talk to the sales clerk, and the sales clerk say, well, this is store policy. Well, ask to speak to the manager. The manager says, well, this is store policy and I don't make it. Ask to speak to the person who makes the policy. Groups do not think. Groups do not make policies. When you have a conglomeration such as the U.S. Congress, look at the voting records. Find out the persons who made the decision to raise your taxes. Those were made by individual persons, those decisions. So, at one end of the spectrum, the plants and the rocks and the animals don't think. At the other end, the groups and nations and churches don't think. So far as I know, Scripture says the church has one head. That is Christ. And He thinks. And what He thinks is written in Scripture, and we are called to believe it.